pain is often misunderstood. Most people view it as something negative, an obstacle, a punishment, or even a sign of failure. This is a limited perspective. Pain, in its essence, is neither cruel nor kind. It is simply a signal, a form of communication from life itself. Just as hunger tells you that your body needs nourishment, pain tells you that something within or around you requires attention. When you begin to listen to pain with awareness rather than react with fear, it transforms from an enemy into a guide. In physical training, for example, pain is often the sign that a limit is being approached. When the muscles ache, it means they are being tested, broken down slightly, so they can rebuild stronger. The same applies to the mind and the spirit. Emotional pain, loss, rejection, failure, these are not punishments. They are invitations. Invitations to examine yourself more deeply, to uncover attachments, illusions, or old patterns that no longer serve your growth. Without such challenges, the inner self remains dormant, unshaken, and undeveloped. When we treat pain as an enemy, we push it away, numb it, or deny it. But in doing so, we also miss the lesson it carries. Pain is a form of intelligence. It does not come randomly. It arrives precisely when a shift is needed. It marks a transition point between who you are and who you are becoming. If you resist it, you delay that transformation. But if you sit with it, breathe into it, and ask what it is trying to show you, it can become the catalyst for profound insight. The ancient masters knew this well. Through long hours of meditation, martial discipline, or silent observation of nature, they learned that pain reveals the hidden parts of the self, the ego, the fear, the impatience. And by exposing these aspects, it offers the opportunity to let go, to purify, to evolve. This is not a one-time experience. Life will bring pain again and again, not out of cruelty, but out of love for your potential. Each moment of discomfort is an invitation to rise above your former self. So the first step is to change your relationship with pain, rather than labeling it as bad or trying to escape from it. Approach it like a teacher you do not yet understand. It may speak in a language that is uncomfortable or unclear at first, but with patience, its message becomes apparent. Pain is not your enemy. It is your instructor. And if you pay attention, it will lead you not away from success, but directly toward it, through the narrow gate of transformation. Comfort is seductive. It offers the illusion of peace, but often at the cost of progress. When you are comfortable, there is no urgency to change, no need to question yourself, no challenge to overcome. And so you settle, you remain where you are, not because that place is right for you, but because it feels safe. Yet growth, by its very nature, is disruptive. It does not thrive in still water. It needs movement, friction, and tension. That is why true transformation is born not in ease, but in moments of discomfort. Discomfort is the soil in which strength is rooted. Whether it is physical training, mental discipline, or emotional healing, the process is rarely smooth. Muscles are torn before they grow stronger. The mind must endure confusion before it finds clarity. The heart must feel the weight of loss before it learns resilience. These moments of strain are not signs that you are failing. They are proof that you are evolving. The discomfort you feel is evidence that you are touching the edge of your current limits. And with each push, that edge expands. Nature confirms this. A tree grows tall not in calm skies, but by learning to stand against the wind. A caterpillar must struggle to emerge from its cocoon, or its wings will never develop. Even seeds must break open in darkness before they rise toward the light. Why then do we expect human growth to be free of difficulty? Discomfort is not a mistake in the process. It is the process. And those who avoid it deny themselves the opportunity to become more than they are. In many disciplines, martial arts, meditation, spiritual practice, the initial stages are often filled with pain, boredom, or confusion. The body resists, the mind rebels, the ego demands ease. But if you endure, something changes. You begin to understand that discomfort is not the enemy, it is the fire that forges character. It teaches humility, patience, and self-mastery. It peels away false identities and brings you face to face with your raw, unpolished self. From that honest place, real growth begins. So when discomfort comes, whether through a challenge, a failure, or a confrontation with your own weaknesses, do not recoil. Let it do its work. Let it push you beyond what is familiar. For it is only by walking through discomfort that you arrive at your next level of strength. Without that tension, growth remains an idea. With it, growth becomes your reality. Pain is a part of life, but suffering is not automatically included. Suffering is born not from the event itself, but from our internal resistance to it. When we encounter pain, whether it be physical, emotional, or mental, we tend to fight it. We tighten our bodies, deny our emotions, or escape into distraction. That is the number R. This resistance doesn't remove the pain, it adds another layer to it. It turns a passing discomfort into a lasting struggle. What could have been observed, understood, and released instead becomes entangled with fear, judgment, and attachment. Imagine holding a rope tied to a heavy weight. If you allow the weight to rest on the ground, it remains still, but if you keep pulling against it, the rope burns your hands, your body tires, and you become trapped in the tension. Life is often the same. The pain itself may be manageable, even necessary, but our refusal to accept it, our mental pulling away, is what creates true suffering. The moment we say, "This should not be happening," we begin a battle with reality. And reality always wins. In both stillness and movement practices, this truth becomes clear. When sitting in meditation or training the body, discomfort inevitably arises. The back aches, the legs go numb, the breath becomes shallow. If you panic, resist, or mentally complain, the suffering intensifies. But if you observe the pain with presence, neither indulging in it nor escaping, it often begins to dissolve. Or at least it changes its quality. You no longer see it as your enemy, but as a sensation that is simply passing through. Resistance tightens the grip of pain. Acceptance loosens it. This principle applies beyond the body into the emotional and mental realms. When we resist sadness, it deepens. When we resist fear, it controls us. When we resist uncertainty, we create anxiety. But when we make space for these emotions, acknowledging them without judgment, they begin to shift. Resistance comes from the mind's need to control. It wants to shape life into what it finds pleasant and predictable. But life is not here to obey our preferences. It is here to teach us. Often, its most valuable lessons come disguised as discomfort. To move beyond suffering, we must first release our resistance. This doesn't mean becoming passive or weak. It means becoming wise. To feel pain without clinging to it. To experience difficulty without needing to label it as good or bad. This is not a technique, it is a way of being. When resistance ends, a strange thing happens, space opens up inside. The same pain that once overwhelmed you now becomes something you can carry with dignity, even peace. And in that shift, you begin to glimpse your true power, not in control, but in presence. When pain arises, the instinctive human reaction is to run from the feeling, from the situation, from the self. We look for distraction, comfort, or someone to blame. This reflex is understandable, but it is not wise. Escaping discomfort may offer short-term relief, but it robs us of long-term growth. The pain remains. It waits beneath the surface, unresolved. Only when we stop running, turn toward the experience, and meet it fully can we begin to understand its true message. This is the first step toward transformation. To embrace pain is not to enjoy it or invite unnecessary suffering. It is to accept its presence without fear or denial. When we choose to embrace instead of escape, we give ourselves permission to feel. The body may shake, the heart may resist, but something deep inside begins to settle. We realize that pain is not a storm that must be avoided, but a wave that can be ridden. To sit with discomfort without judgment, without rushing to fix it, is an act of inner strength. It requires courage, but also patience. In disciplined training, whether martial, mental, or spiritual, the call is always to remain. To stay still when the legs want to move, to breathe when the mind wants to flee, to hold presence in the exact moment where everything within says, leave. This is not about enduring for the sake of pride. It is about training the self to remain open in the face of difficulty. Each time you resist the urge to escape, you increase your capacity to hold life as it is. You become less reactive, more aware, and more deeply rooted in yourself. Avoidance is a subtle poison. It seems harmless, even comforting. But over time, it weakens our resolve. We start to fear the very things that are meant to teach us. We seek only what is pleasant and familiar, and in doing so, we shrink. Growth does not happen in avoidance. It happens in the raw, honest space where we confront what we do not want to feel. Pain is not a threat to your peace. Escaping from it is. When we embrace the challenge, we reclaim our power over it. When we escape, we give that power away. Embracing pain does not mean losing yourself in it. It means standing in the center of it with awareness. There is a stillness that can only be found inside the storm, a silence that arises when you stop struggling. The pain you feel is not trying to destroy you. It is trying to reveal something essential. But you will not hear it if you are running. You must stay. You must listen. And only in that brave stillness will the lesson begin to emerge. If one truly wants to understand transformation, one must observe nature, not from a distance, but from a place of quiet attention. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Trees do not resist the change of seasons. Rivers do not fight against the rocks in their path. Mountains stand silent under wind and rain, not with defiance, but with grounded patience. Nature teaches us that growth and transformation do not come through force or resistance, but through alignment with life's natural rhythms, including hardship and pain. Look at the seed. It must first crack open in darkness before it ever touches light. If it were to resist the pressure, if it were to refuse the discomfort of breaking apart, the tree inside would never emerge. Transformation requires breaking, not as destruction, but as release. What must be shed is not your strength, but your shell. The parts of you that are rigid, afraid, or too tightly clinging to the known. Just as the seed cannot bloom while staying intact, we cannot evolve while resisting discomfort. The wind that bends the branches does not mean harm to the tree. It helps it grow flexible, strong, and deep-rooted. Likewise, the storms in life shape the unseen parts of us, our patience, resilience, and clarity. Even the flame that seems to consume has purpose. It clears dead wood, regenerates the soil, and makes way for new life. What appears to be destruction is often nature's way of renewal. So it is with our inner life. Pain clears the unnecessary, sharpens focus, and reveals who we truly are beneath the surface. There is wisdom in the earth's silence. Mountains do not complain about erosion. The sun does not argue with the passing clouds. Nature accepts change, endures pain, and yet continues its rhythm. Human beings are not separate from nature, yet we often act as though we should be exempt from difficulty. But when we remember that we too are part of this living system, we begin to see pain not as punishment, but as part of the same cycle that governs all transformation. It is not personal. It is natural. To observe nature is to witness humility in action. Nothing clings. Nothing escapes. Everything responds. Everything adapts. So must we. When pain comes, it is not a sign that something is wrong, but that something is shifting. Just as nature yields to the forces that shape it, we must yield to the forces that refine us. Not with passivity, but with conscious acceptance. In this way, we come to understand that every challenge is an invitation to become more in harmony with what we are meant to be. Pain, when misunderstood, appears to be a force that weakens, isolates, or discourages. But pain, when observed with clarity and used with intention, becomes energy, raw, untamed, and full of potential. Just like fire, pain can burn or illuminate depending on how it is held. The choice lies in your awareness. You can allow it to consume your motivation, or you can transform it into fuel to power your discipline, your focus, and your evolution. In this way, pain is not a weight that holds you down. It is a force that can push you forward. Every individual who has achieved mastery of body, mind, or craft has walked through some form of pain. They did not avoid it. They did not wait for it to pass. They used it. They harnessed the sting of rejection, the loneliness of struggle, the ache of discipline, and turned it into momentum. Pain reminds you of what matters. It strips away what is unnecessary. It gives you intensity. When you stop seeing pain as an obstacle, it becomes a source of strength that others overlook. Pain teaches you what comfort cannot. When you feel the sharpness of failure, you learn humility. When you suffer loss, you learn presence. When you endure fatigue, you learn commitment. These lessons cannot be downloaded or inherited. They must be earned through experience. Pain forces you to dig deeper, to find the energy reserves, the hidden courage, the mental clarity that only appear when you are pushed beyond your usual limits. That depth is the true source of power. Without pain, you would never discover it. This does not mean chasing suffering. There is no wisdom in creating unnecessary struggle. But when pain does arise, as it always will, choose to work with it. Let it forge your resilience. Let it remind you why you began. Let it clarify your direction. The fire within you is awakened not in calm, but in confrontation with resistance. Every difficult moment, every setback, every fall can be turned into fuel if you remain alert and choose transformation over escape. To use pain as fuel is to reclaim your power from the experience. It is to declare that your response will not be determined by your wounds, but by your will. Pain does not decide your path, you do. When you harness it, you burn cleaner. You move with more purpose. And you rise not in spite of the pain, but because of it. It becomes part of your strength, your story, your silent momentum. When life becomes chaotic, when emotions rise, when failure strikes, when the future becomes uncertain, the instinct is often to escape the moment. The mind drifts into fear, regret, or fantasy, trying to protect itself from what feels overwhelming. But the very power needed to endure the storm is found only in the present moment. It is not in what has already happened, nor in what might happen. It is in the space you are standing in now. That is where clarity lies. That is where strength begins. To stay present during hardship is not easy. The winds of fear and confusion will pull at your thoughts, trying to scatter your attention. But presence is like the deep roots of an ancient tree. It holds you steady when everything else begins to shake. The mind may want to panic, the body may tremble, but if awareness remains still, you will not break. You learn to observe without being consumed. You begin to witness the chaos without becoming part of it. This is not detachment. It is disciplined awareness. Pain has a way of collapsing time. It makes the moment feel endless, and the mind searches for escape routes. Memories of the past, projections of the future, distractions, blame. But none of these offer real peace. They are mirages in the desert. True refuge lies in returning to the breath, to the step you are taking now, to the sound of silence beneath the noise. The storm may rage around you, but you do not have to be swept away by it. In stillness, you remain the eye of the storm. Presence reveals truth. In the quiet center of your attention, you begin to see things as they are, not through the lens of fear or anger, but with clarity. You notice the patterns of your mind. You feel where the tension lives in the body. You hear the inner voice that has been buried beneath distraction. When you are fully present, pain becomes less threatening. It becomes something you can meet, understand, and eventually move through. It is in presence that pain loses its grip. Staying present through the storm does not mean suppressing emotion or pretending to be unaffected. It means allowing what is while choosing not to be overwhelmed by it. It is the art of remaining anchored when the tide rises. Each time you return to the present, despite discomfort, you build inner stability. And in time, that stability becomes your strength, your compass, and your calm, even when everything around you is shifting. Success, as defined by the world, often revolves around numbers, wealth, status, followers, achievements. But these external markers are unstable. They rise and fall with time, with opinion, with chance. If your sense of success is tied only to things outside of you, then your peace, your identity, and your value are always at risk. True success does not begin with accumulation. It begins with alignment, when your actions, your thoughts, and your inner values move as one. It is something quiet yet unshakable, something no one can give or take away. The person who has conquered themselves, who has disciplined the body, trained the mind, and calmed the heart, has achieved a success greater than any external trophy. This kind of success is not measured by applause, but by stillness. It is reflected in the way one responds to difficulty, how one carries themselves in silence, how deeply one listens, and how little one needs to feel whole. Inner success is not about being untouched by pain. It is about knowing how to walk through it without losing your center. When you are grounded in internal success, life's challenges no longer threaten your identity. You may lose comfort, but you do not lose purpose. You may face rejection, but not confusion. You may stumble, but not break. The one who is rooted within does not rely on recognition to feel worthy. They move from clarity, not comparison. Their success is not louder than others. It is deeper, not faster. It is steadier. It cannot be seen easily, but it can be felt. It is presence. It is integrity. Pain is one of the great catalysts of internal success because it strips away what is false. When you suffer, your titles do not comfort you. Your possessions do not protect you. Only what is real within remains. This is why pain is not your enemy. It helps reveal the parts of you that are already strong, already clear, already free. True success begins here, not in overcoming the world, but in overcoming the illusion that you are only as valuable as what you achieve. So when pain arrives and when life challenges your plans, it becomes a mirror. It shows you where your success is placed, externally or internally. If it is external, it will be shaken. If it is internal, it will deepen. And in those moments, you are invited to redefine what it means to live successfully. You are invited to turn inward, to strengthen what cannot be seen, and to walk the path not of image, but of essence. Pain often feels random and cruel, a burden to carry and a shadow that darkens the path ahead. Yet beneath this apparent chaos lies a profound opportunity, the chance to transform pain into purpose. Purpose gives pain meaning. Without it, pain can feel like an endless abyss. With purpose, it becomes a guiding force that propels you forward. When you align your suffering with a higher intention, pain no longer drains your energy. It focuses and channels it into action that matters beyond yourself. This transformation begins with a shift in perspective. Instead of asking, why me? Ask, what can I learn? How can this experience serve not only me but others? The deepest wounds often become the sources of the greatest compassion. Wisdom and leadership. When you face your own pain fully, you gain insight into the suffering of others. This connection to shared humanity can inspire you to live and work with more kindness, patience, and dedication, turning personal struggle into collective benefit. Purpose also acts as an anchor during turbulent times. When the body aches, the mind rebels, and the spirit feels fragile, a clear purpose keeps you steady. It reminds you why you endure the hardship, why you push through the exhaustion, why you choose presence over avoidance. Purpose is not a distant goal, but a living flame within, kindled by your willingness to turn pain from a weight into a force that fuels growth, resilience, and contribution. It helps you walk the path not just for yourself, but for something greater. In many traditions, the path of transformation is marked by a call to serve. The pain you endure can be the very thing that prepares you to help others face their own struggles. When you transform pain into purpose, your life moves beyond personal survival toward meaningful impact. The lessons you learn become gifts you can share. Your endurance becomes a beacon. This is how suffering, when embraced and understood, becomes sacred. It is the foundation of true leadership and lasting success. Transforming pain into purpose is not always easy or immediate. It requires patience, reflection, and often support. But it is one of the most powerful ways to reclaim agency over your experience. Pain stops being a punishment or a barrier and becomes the teacher, the fuel, and the compass. When this shift happens, you move from victimhood to creator, from despair to determination, from isolation to connection. And in that transformation, your success becomes not just personal, but profound.